where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history. What body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psephology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out.
Friday Java from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. Our date is the 7th of June 2019. We are moving towards Juneteenth. We'll have more about Juneteenth on the week that was. We visit the University of Virginia at Charlottesville today with Larry Sabato's crystal ball. And as we always do, we remember Heather Heyer, who was killed by white supremacists in the city of Charlottesville, the home of the University of Virginia. Let's start out here with the crystal ball, and we have in this program Edward R. Murrow. Also, we want to remember Dr. John, who passed away on Thursday. He was 77, and out of the city of New Orleans. We'll have something on the week that was for him, a sampling of his music. And we also want to remember Leah Chase, a cook extraordinary in the city of New Orleans. She was appeared this week in New Orleans fashion, the parade and that sort of situation. There was also a very good interview with Leah Chase by Mr. Martin. And we'll have to get a link on the week that was and maybe a little bit of the interview. Roland Martin, he did an excellent job of interviewing Leah Chase and some other chefs and on his network and bringing it to light. It was about almost a 3-hour show. And that shows the independence that one is allowed to have in the day of digital expansion, we'll call it. He used to be on Radio 1, and he's been in several places as Roland Martin. We'll pay homage to him. And also Spotify has a new couple Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are now on Spotify. They signed a deal. This is a very interesting situation. They are on also Netflix, but Spotify is more and more becoming the destination for internet radio, we'll call it, and that's basically what it is. iHeart is there, and some of the bigger ones are moving along. Of course, we are on Spotify, and you can get us there. Or you can also find us on the smart speakers, whether it be the Google brand Alexa from Amazon. Just say Boston Red or Numbers Man. I'm not sure if you can say WBRN or not on their system. You can try it. And some of the things going on. We apologize for the voice. The allergy seasons are upon us, and they have not been favorable to us this year so far, and we're in June. But nonetheless, we'll have a little bit of polling. We'll look at some polls over the last 2 days. I believe there's one out of Michigan that shows Bernie Sanders and various Democrats ahead in that state of DJ Trump. And we'll have some of the normative things and a number of other things out there. So let's move along here and find out exactly what we're doing here. And get those. Okay, now we go back to Larry Sabato. The shadow of 1998, the revisiting and reassessing the GOP's poor performance, showing and the role impeachment in the result. If you recall, that was the next election cycle. William Jefferson and Clinton had been impeached, and this is midterm election. The key points here: the 1998 election had has invariably come up a lot as House Democrats consider whether to impeach DJ Trump. That's because the Republicans had high expectations for that election, but it ended up frogging. Well, impeachment probably did hurt the Republicans in some districts. It may have been that Clinton's popularity in time of peace and prosperity, and remember that was the dot-com boom, insulated the Democrats from being losers, even if the GOP had held off on impeachment. Reconsidering the 1998 midterms, the Democrats 40 seats, a net gain, and that is an old-fashioned ass-kicking, as LBJ would say. In the House, last fall was, this is in the House, the last fall, latest example of the midterm election serving as a check on the White House. Since the Civil War has been 40 midterms, and the President's party has lost ground in the House in 37 of those. But many times not much ground at all. Yet one of those exceptions was recent. It was an election that has been and will be a reference as the House Democrats to consider whether to impeach DJ Trump. As 1998. But 1998 was a different type of year. Remember that in 1998 the setup was totally different. You had a dot-com boom. Things were booming before the big recession came in. After the election was stolen from Albert Gore of Tennessee by G.W. Bush. Anyway, that was the 2000 election. We went to Florida to look at it. That year, Democrats won 4 more seats than they had won in 1996, providing a rare exception to the usual midterm rule. That election took place under the shadow of impeachment. Independent counsel Starr submitted a report laying out 11 possible grounds for impeaching President Clinton. In September, the GOP controlled the House vote to open proceeding against Bill Clinton. In early October, as Democrats pondered whether to open such proceedings against DJ Trump. The conventional wisdom about 1998 is that the Republicans were on track for big gains, but the pursuit of impeachment prevented them from realizing them. Clinton's biographer, let's see, this is Michael Tomansky, summed it up in the pre-midterm thinking of this way. It was expected that the GOP would argue that the majorities and probably by a considerable amount. Rarely in politics has anything been so obvious that the assessments were informed by history, not just by the usual midterm patterns as cited above. This was a 6-year itch election, a midterm conducted during the second consecutive term of a party's control of the White House, and there was some catastrophically bad 6-year itch elections in recent memory of time. That's 1938, 58, 66, and 74 all qualify. 2006 and perhaps 2014 also would. The president's party in those years were undone by overreaching scandals, war, recessions, and some combination of those factors. It may have seen that Clinton's scandal could have been the trigger for a similar result in '98, but it didn't happen in part because the Republicans misplayed their impeachment hand. The conventional wisdom about 68 is the Republicans went to the track for a big game, but the pursuit of impeachment prevented them from realizing them. Clinton's... oh, wait a minute here. Sorry about that. Oops. I got to get down here, get my pointer going. So the argument now is because the impeachment didn't work for the Republicans in '98, it won't work for the Democrats in 2020. That may or may not be the case if the Democrats do pursue impeachment, but if a '98 is going to keep coming up, that election itself merits a close look. When it's impossible to know what would have happened in some alien universe where Republicans did not open up impeachment proceedings against Clinton. Now you remember this was a continuous campaign against Bill Clinton. The star was out there, the special prosecutor. That's when they had one. And you had prior to that the Whitewater land scandal there, the trading scandal by the Hillary. All kinds of things were going on. McDougal, a man named McDougal, was a Clinton's banker, was mixed up in that situation. You had Paula Jones. I mean, you had a cast of characters there. It was a circus. Well, the GOP's failure to make gains in the House of the Senate came as a surprise to many. 2 days after the election, a New York Times piece detailing the fallout opened as follows. Stunned by the Democrats' resurgency in the midterm election, congressional Republicans Congressional Republicans are forced into another yesterday over who was to blame for the election. If you remember, this is when Newt Gingrich was there, the failure to make traditional opposition parties gains in an off-year election. House Speaker Gingrich would, whose confrontational style helped set up the first GOP House majority, that was a contract on America, announced his resignation a couple of days later. It seemed somehow the ultimate irony of the strange political year, a year stagnated by President Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky. Instead of Bill Clinton being the one to fall, it was Newt Gingrich. The Times observed. It was later emerged that Gingrich himself had been carrying on an affair, no doubt about that. And there was also his successor, Bob Livingston. He was out of Louisiana, admitted to infidelity, and he disappeared too. A few days before Christmas in 98. Needless to say, those revelations did not bolster the GOP's efforts to actually remove Clinton from office, which never seemed likely. The Democrats report controlled the Senate at the time. A reversal. As it was, the Republican House would eventually vote to impeach Bill Clinton, but Bill Clinton easily survived in the Senate. All the Democrats voted not guilty. Handful of Republicans voted not guilty. One of both charges. Clinton left office. Very popular. He's about 70% there. And Vice President Gore election was stolen by G.W. Bush. Let me just change a little bit of their writing here. Following this his comfortable re-election, that was in 1996. Clinton's approval rating was consistently very strong in 97 and 98 as he would deal with the personal scandal. He spent most of 97 in the high 50s, much higher than old DJ. And in 1998, his average was in the 60s and sometimes in the 70s. That was the average. So he was in very good shape. That has not happened in modern times. Recall President Obama was in the high 40s, low 50s, with the exception of the years that he came in his second term. As I just noted, Clinton's approval ratings were consistently higher throughout the second term. The one would usually contributed to a midterm wave of an unpopular president was missing from the equation. So was the backlash to legislature overreaching as Clinton had lost the House and the Senate in 1994. And that was when old Newt came in, thus not much sign from public polling that the battle for the House in the 98 cycle appeared to be a Republican rout, but then snapped back to the Democratic House generic ballot polls. Today, the Pew Research Organization, NBC, Wall Street Journal, in 97 all found the Democrats leading according to a compilation of such polls from pollingreport.com. Everybody's in the .com racket these days. Democrats' advantage in it both back then and even as much in recent 2014-2016 cycle. From mid-August through Election Day, the average of 20 generic polls showed that the exact tie, and the GOP won the House national popularity vote by a point, and nearly the let's see, what was it, 223 to 212 in 98. So there we go. But you have to also consider history's historical content. At the time, midterm swings had been common in recent years as presidential party have gained double digits, where it was not the case then. Democrats, won in 2006, 2018. Republicans in 2010. Remember, that was Tea Party days there. But big swings are not as common in the late 20th century, from 1978 through 2002. There were several midterms that were very little change in the House. Well, that's been a case there. Reagan's revolution 2 years later, although Democrats retained the House majorities, even then in 82, President Reagan, Republicans lost 26 seats. Not too bad considering Reagan's approval rating was weak. And most people don't remember, Reagan had a weak approval rating with a weak program. And the Republicans may also have been kept out in the House, at least to some degree. They were followed by the fabulous gains in '94 with only a minor, wait a minute here. But conservatives and Republicans are trending south while losing ground in the rest of the nation, and that's been the case for quite some time. Decline in the House from 94 to let's see here, 96. The Democrats anyway. Republicans also were still in the midst of transitioning their potential in the conservative South into electoral reality. At the time, Republicans were still on the wrong side of a Democratic gerrymander in Texas, and that's about the last time Democrats maybe would do anything in Texas. Republicans imposed a new map in advance of 2004. Meanwhile, Democrats benefited from some key Republican retirements, such as that of a moderate representative, Scott King. I don't remember Scott King. Clinton also won the district by 22 points. That said, they definitely in some districts by district evidence suggested that the impeachment battle helped Democrats pick up some seats. That's possible there. In New Jersey, 12, that's Mike Pappas. It was a Republican. Recited a poem, Twinkle, Twinkle, Twinkle. Ken Starr, now we see how brave you are. If we could not see which way to go, if you did not lead us so. Anyway, moving on here. So much for that. Overall, only 17 races in 98 were decided by 5 points or less. Democrats won 10 and the Republicans won 7. Perhaps in the absence of impeachment, the GOP wouldn't have won the majority of the closing races and could have netted seats instead of losing seats. Well, hard to predict there. The nation now is totally different. Remember in 98, the internet was there. O.J. Simpson had been acquitted, and the reaction from that, old Freddie was going around crying on the nation. So there was a lot of reaction there, a lot of racism out of the Simpson verdict. All those things were in place. And still, Albert Gore, Tennessee, won in 2000. Was stolen in Florida by Baby Bush, Jeb Bush, for his brother, G.W. Perhaps it doesn't really prove much guidance at all. Those who do not want to pursue impeachment can and will point to 98. 98 also was a midterm year. Not only that it featured a high turnout, practically high turnout, 38% of those eligible, according to a turnout expert, Michael McDonald. The next election in 2020, a presidential year, where the turnout was 65%. Now, in 38 to 65%, it was low turnout election. Usually that would favor Republicans. It did not. If one wonders if impeachment would change the dynamic, it could provide extra motivation to one side or the other. Well, that is not as possible today because of social media and turnout elections. The gang gets out there. Now the gang changes with somebody like DJ Trump. That's why DJ Trump caters to his base, because he has to get his base out. If he doesn't get his base out, he's toast. And also he's toast if the economy goes south. So the Fed now perhaps will lower interest rates. We'll get into this on numbers, man. And we should have those numbers out before we finish it. That is from the Bureau of Economic Analysis. The jobs numbers should be out. We'll see. Anyway, this is not intended to be an argument against as to the possible effect of impeachment in 2020. It may be instructive to recall Gingrich's words in the aftermath of 98. Things are happening out there, but none of it is fully understood. Well, who knows? Yeah, let's start going through our lineup here. Women leaving water for migrants in the desert. This is in Arizona. This is by time. 4 aid workers were convicted on charges, very flimsy charges, connected to their efforts to leave food and water for immigrants in the Arizona Wildlife Reserve. The volunteers, who were members of a faith-based humanitarian aid group, No More Deaths, were caught on the 13th, and this was in 2017, by wildlife officers there, leaving water jugs, beans, and other supplies for migrants in the Cabeza National Wildlife Refuge, which shares a 50-mile border with Mexico. The judge, some magistrate, what was his name? Velasco, ruled that 3 of the volunteers, names of volunteers there, were convicted of entering a national. This is very weak. A national a national wildlife refuge without a permit and abandoned personal property or possessions. A full volunteer, Natalie Hoffman, was convicted on an additional charge of operating a motor vehicle. This is terrible. Velasco wrote in his verdict that the women had failed to get permits for expanded access to the wildlife refuge, and had gone off on roads and had left behind belongings. I just wonder if they appealed this. The response from the organization No More Deaths, claiming that the decision is part of a crisis of conscience in the U.S. Catherine Griffney, a volunteer for the organization, said that the 4 volunteers were driven by moral principles, no doubt. The judge rejected several defenses the volunteers used to explain their actions, including defense that they had been acting on their moral, ethical, and spiritual beliefs. He also rejected claims that an assistant U.S. attorney had deliberately misled the organization by telling them that the Department of Justice didn't plan to prosecute them. In response to the verdict, the organization announced that it would hold a visual outside of the Elroy Detention Center in Arizona. So this is an older article. Actually was published on January 20th, 2019. Yeah, let's roll on here a little bit. Not sure we want to say much about this. This is by Heather Long. Heather Long is an economics correspondent. We see her at the meetings of the Fed via video. And the upper hand in trade wars until September is what she says about old DJ Trump. And Heather Long here. The president appears eager to pile on more tariffs on China and Mexico. The question is, will any of this work? Tariffs are part of a broader effort, as according to DJ Trump, to rewrite the rules of global trade, but also requires other countries to sign off on new and more U.S.-friendly deals. He's a master of deal making, and remains to be seen if he has a case as to be made that Trump has the upper hand in these trade disputes because the U.S. buys more from China and Mexico than other countries buy from the U.S. Well, no doubt about that. That dynamic is changing, but new raw economic calculations that Trump is now facing a re-election campaign, and he's backing on a strong economy to propel him to victory. One of the odd things about strong economies, and people sometimes actually make changes in strong economies. Now, it helped Bill Clinton, but the situation was that most people saw the charges against Bill Clinton around Monica Lewinsky as the business of he and Monica Lewinsky. And it was not something that he was breaking into places and doing things of that nature. Anyway, according to the National Retail Federation, August and September are the key months when U.S. retailers import goods for holiday shoppers. Well, that has changed a little bit. Shipments will start moving in August. In how many from China remains to be seen. Anyway, the increase in tariffs on China, it cost the average family of four $860 a year. And if he goes ahead, it'll be up to $1,000 a year. The benefits, and that'll be wiping out the benefits of the GOP tax cut for many in the middle class. If he moves forward over threats and tariffs, all Chinese imports by the middle of summer, the price jumps to $2,000, depending on obviously what they're buying. Consumer spending, of course, the backbone is 70% of the U.S. economy, for better or for worse. Presidents own the economy. That's from Phil Levy, a trade analyst and a former member of G.W. Bush's Council of Economic Advisors. And will D.J. Trump get blamed if the economy goes down? That's a little bit hard to say because of D.J. Trump. He'll blame it on everyone, including Moms Mabley there. So that's enough of D.J. Trump there. Democrats and their presidential debate rules under Perez. They're not open and transparent. Steve Bullock, he's from Montana. And they could exclude Steve Bullock. He announced in February a set of rules for June and July debates, with two possible thresholds qualifying receiving at least 1% support in three different polls conducted by 18 media outlets in 2019, receiving donations. This is a $65,000 rule. You give $1 to a candidate. The DMC publicly announced Thursday that the open-end polls will not count to meet the debate threshold, since voters can include non-candidates in their response. Bullock cannot use a Washington Post poll from January. He scored 1% in his third qualifying. We notified Bullock's campaign in early March, so they are known for months, as according to someone, communications director. Of the 23 Democrats, 20 claim to have enough polls under the new qualification situation there, leaving only Bullock and the mayor of what is that? Miranda, Florida. Seb Malden out of the proceedings. 13 candidates claim to qualify by the $65,000. That's why they've been asking for $1 a head. One idea discussed by three different campaigns would be to establish a joint fundraising effort, encouraging donors to donate $1. Hell, a way to get into a debate. The survey was weighted to population benchmarks, and Bullock rounded at 1%, the same as those who volunteered. Twitter King Booker and Amy Klobuchar in that survey. In April, poll asked the same question. No respondents volunteered Bullock's name. Bullock announced his campaign on the 4th of May. Bullock drew 1% support in March. That was in Des Moines Register poll, and in April, a poll by Reuters. So he did get something there. Let me check the time here. We'll probably deal with the robots at Walmart later. Deaths in the Dominican Republic. That's very interesting. I've seen that story out there. There were 3 victims experienced nearly similar symptoms. Internal trauma before their deaths. The names were released. This is the Dominican government. More details of autopsy. that Sempian Day, 49, and Nathaniel Holmes, 63, both Prince George County, and also the death of Miranda Vina, 41, of Pennsylvania. Vina evidently arrived there, checked into a luxury hotel, and was taking pictures from her balcony, and when she started to feel ill, less than 2 hours later, she was dead. And the bodies of Day and Holmes were found inside of their rooms at the Grand Buhar Principe La Roma, after relatives drew concern there. So those are the 3 deaths. Don't know. They died basically of very similar sources. And let's see, somewhere here we have, where's Ed Merle? Oh, it's in a different one. Let's just look at some of the polling here. We'll just briefly look at. This is from The Economist. They have Joe Biden at 27. Let's see, Bernie Sanders at 15. Elizabeth Warren at 12. Harris at 9. Alfred E. Newman from South Bend at 10. Beto O'Rourke at 2. That's unusual, man. Beto O'Rourke at 2, Amy Klobuchar at 1. Not a good poll for any of those people. And we go to, this is in Texas. You got to be tall to be in Texas. Biden at 30. Beto at 16. Bernie at 15. Warren at 11. That's good for her down there. And then Alfred E. falls apart. Alfred E. Newman, that is. He comes in at 3. Julian Castro at 4, Harris at 4, and even Klobuchar didn't move the thing. This is a Quinnipiac poll here, and in Texas, Biden actually is leading in Texas over DJ Trump, and DJ Trump leads Bernie by 3. He leads Elizabeth Warren by only 1 in this poll. Leads Harris by 4. Alfred E. Newman from Buttigieg is his name. Anyway, he's led. Trump leads him by 2. Beto O'Rourke by 3. That's surprising in the state of Texas. Anyway, Castro by 3, and we go to Michigan. Joe Lunchbox Biden's up by 12 over DJ Trump. Bernie Sanders also up by 12. That's in the state of Michigan. This is a WGTV poll. And Warren's up by 4, and Harris is up by 3. Alfred E. Newman is up by 6. This is in the Detroit News poll there. Not good news for DJ. The situation with DJ is that the state of Michigan is important, but at least how our models are running, DJ Trump has a lot of work to do to win Michigan. Pennsylvania is one that's not trending for DJ Trump either. And then into Wisconsin, DJ Trump has been consistently running behind there. Can he come up? Well, it'll be very interesting to see how many voters DJ Trump can get. Better not in the circumference at this point in time. Ohio, of course, is a big one, an industrial state. We'll be looking at polls from Ohio. Of course, we'll also look at Texas. That negates some of the nefarious schemes in Florida. All right, let's, where are we going here with this? We'll go, this is a very interesting situation. They'll have, Game 4? The Raptors and Warriors. They'll be at Golden State. The Raptors, and who would have known this, lead it 2-1, but that's not a big situation there. Nadal 5-3 over Federer. That's at the French Open. And surprisingly, the Blues win in Boston, 2-1 over the Bruins. That is the Stanley Cup. Doesn't get any better than that. And early today, when we were doing the Australian situation there with the Afghan report, and we asked that you tune into that. That was a secret report of killings, tortures, etc. by Australian special forces in Afghanistan. These are just some recent things on the Open here. Nadal's up 5-3. This is the first set. Anyway, let's go to Major League Baseball. Something that we know. The Athletics were at the Angels. Athletics 7-4. The Nationals were in San Diego. Padres 5-4. The Giants were in New York. Mets 7-3. Atlanta was in Pittsburgh. It was all Pittsburgh 6-1. The Red Sox were in Kansas City. Sox 7-5. The Reds were in St. Louis. Cards win a game 3-1. And the Marlins were in Milwaukee. Brewers 5-1. The Rockies were at the Cubs, and the Rockies rocked the Cubs 3-1. Loser there was Quintana. And in 14, the Astros were in Seattle, and it ended up being 8-7 game. The line there, the Astros had 4 hits, and the Mariners had 11 hits, no errors on either side. The Twins were in Cleveland. It was the Twins, 5-4. The Yankees were in Toronto. Yankees 6-2, and finally the Orioles were in where were they? Texas. Rangers 4-3. And some soccer scores. Won't go through all those. Netherlands 3-1 over England. Mongolia 2-0 over Dar es Salaam. Okay, Brunei Dar es Salaam. Cambodia 2-0 over Pakistan. 2-0 over Pakistan. And Laos was defeated 1-0 by Bangladesh. And Macau 1-0 over Sri Lanka. And let's see who else here. Bhutan 1 over Guam. And in the U.S., New York 5-2 over Cincy. And Chinese Taipei. And Nepal 1-1. Iran 5-0 over Syria. Chile 1-2 over, and China U22 4-1 over Bahrain, the Republic of Ireland and Mexico 0-0. And that's basically where we go for soccer. We still have we'll get these the Women's World Cup. Let's see what we got going here. We'll look at it real quickly here. And we have some college ball. We'll get that up to tomorrow night. We'll kind of expand a little bit on the sports. We'll even get the cricket scores in. Let's see if we can do that. We'll go to the BBC, and maybe it'll work out for us. Who knows? Difficult to say sometimes. The BBC has changed things around. Okay. Now this is football. Not sure at all. Yeah, cricket is one of those things. We can see if it's. This is football. Very big situation there. Football Trailblazers, but we want to find cricket Trailblazers, and I'm not sure. Well, wait a minute here. The Women's World Cup, France is all the BBC here. And well, we did have it. No. Well, we did on the Australian thing. We did find the cricket people here, and we have no way of finding them. Well, I guess that they won the cup. That was the end of the story. One way to end things up very quickly. They're playing up the French Open here and the Women's World Cup. It's on a Friday. Well, anyway, we're banned at that. We may be able to get the jobs numbers up here. Well, I believe that's at 9 o'clock, so we're around, moving up on 8 o'clock, so we're not going to have that. But anyway, we'll have it on Numbers Man. We'll get that. These are all from various other third parties. This will do it for us, Friday Java, on the 7th of June, 2019. This is Boston Red in the Jerry Pippin broadcast booth. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on the week that was, and we'll talk about fake news and Edward R. Murrell's experience with it. And we'll pay further homage to Leah Chase and what Mr. Roland Martin did for her. And Dr. John, may he rest also in peace. He died in the Big Easy. We don't have anything for him right now, but we'll get it. Good day.